Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. This is the radio program, the podcast that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And, the show is a podcast. It actually has always been a podcast. But when we first started, I had a tendency to refer to it more as a radio show because I thought that sounded cooler than podcast. And I've discovered that I'm completely wrong. Podcast is way cooler than radio show.
There's a great divide there because if you talk to some older people, they're like, "What's a podcast?"
Yeah.
But you talk to some of the younger people, they're like, "What's a radio?"
What's a radio show? Yeah, exactly. So
it's kind of like stuck in the middle there.
Well, we do the show live on Facebook Live every week. When we do it on Thursdays, usually at, as Ian likes to say, 1-ish.
1-ish.
And
it's a soft one.
It's a soft one. That's the exact way to say it. But it also is available as a podcast, as Ian was pointing out, on all the major podcast services: Google Play, Apple. You can get it on SoundCloud, and of course, you can find it on.
Don't forget YouTube.
YouTube as well.
Don't forget to go to YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to YouTube. And don't forget to hit the bell and hit like.
I'm almost finding that I'm enjoying the show on YouTube more when I go back to check out the show. I enjoy that's where I go, is YouTube. That's the fun place it feels like to me to check out the show.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. If you're going to have something in the background, like a lot of people put the TV on in the background, why not us?
Yes, exactly. One of the things that's great about being in the studio is getting to create these sound effects, and here we go. Ooh, that was good.
That was pretty crispy, wasn't it?
Really good. Ian is opening and pouring the Adroit Theory beer. I will mention while he does that we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. I went to Adam and Adam's brother Aaron all went to BB Lemon last week, and I got a chance to have that bacon,
Parmesan
bacon.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's just an amazing thing. I think you may be closer to Adam than I am.
I don't know if you can reach.
I feel like I'm far away, and it's hard to pass him the beer.
I'm that way too. Usually,
you have to stretch.
I can reach over there, but I'm just not feeling the stretchy arms today.
Because we pay our producer virtually nothing to do the show, we try to make sure we're at least sharing the beers and the spirits with him. So, okay,
we'll work for beer.
Before we sample, Nick Jonas. Nick Jonas is producing. Here's the big Nick Jonas news. He's producing a brand new Netflix series. So he's more than just a brother of the Jonas clan, and a singer in the Jonas Brothers, and a solo singer on his own, and a cigar smoker and the cover guy for Cigar Aficionado. He's also officially in the production business. He's putting together an 8-episode romantic comedy for the holidays called Dash and Lily, and it's in production at Netflix, and it is based on apparently a book series of the same name. The action centers on a whirlwind holiday romance, and Austin Abrams, who was in that TV show This Is Us, which is a pretty popular show.
That's lost on me.
That's not a show I watch, but I see it apparently is one of the bigger shows on television these days. So anyway, so Nick Jonas is in the production business. So congratulations, Nick. We have gone on record as being supporters of Nick because of the backlash that he faced when he started appearing as a cover man on Cigar Aficionado. Youngest guy to ever appear at, 28, I think he is?
Yeah.
On the cover of Cigar Aficionado.
So now, congratulations, Nick.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, wrong one.
I love when we get the wrong sound
effect. It's supposed to be this one.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, congratulations, Nick. So we really decided to kind of step in line behind Nick and support him. We've talked about getting some shirts made that say "I'm with Nick" and have the Smokin' and Toastin' logo on them, just to show our support. And early this week, I got a note on Facebook from our friend and regular listener, Wiki Brian, and his note had a link to an article, and it said, "May not want to print the shirts just yet. It was too good to be true." And a link to a story. And so the story is this. The Jonas Brothers apparently are enormous fans of Coors Light. In fact, they're such enormous fans that they went to the brewery recently in Golden, Colorado, and we're given a big, private tour. They put the hard hats on them and all that stuff. And so, if you get a private tour at a brewery, you may be a VIP, and I suppose the Jonas Brothers are VIPs. But if they help you make the beer and then they put your face on the label, yeah, you're Jonas Brothers famous. So apparently there's some Coors Light coming out soon with the Jonas Brothers faces on the label. So I don't know.
You broke my heart, Fredo.
So I don't know how we deal with this, I mean, listen, one of the things we, in all seriousness, we do say on the show regularly is, like, drink what you like. I mean, if you like,
Yes.
If you like Coors Light, and that does it for you, go for it.
If you like beer, drink beer. If you like Coors Light, drink water.
I was just, exactly.
I mean,
I was
makes you
just
happy.
hoping, I would hope that Nick's taste might be more refined with this craft beer, but does that throw us off the Nick Jonas
While
bandwagon?
Nick is a grown man at this point in time, there are some areas in life that sometimes you have to outgrow your college tastes in beer, and that may just take time.
Maybe,
Or maybe he's a fan of the cold activated can.
Well,
the early warning system, as I like to call it.
So I had this conversation with my wife because I was telling her about this story and that we were going to cover it on the show today. And I said, I've got the perfect joke to end that segment. And my wife says, okay, what is it? And I said, the bad news is the Jonas Brothers have lent their likeness to the Coors Light bottle or the can. The good news is you'll be able to tell if your beer is cold when the Jonas Brothers faces turn blue.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I wonder if maybe they give him like a cold activated beard or something.
Right. So the best part of this whole conversation, though, is I said to my wife, I said, that's pretty funny, right? And she goes, you guys are always interesting on the show. And I thought about that. I thought about that for a second. I said, we're interesting? She goes, yeah, you're always interesting on the show. I said, but the joke about the Jonas Brothers faces turning blue that I want to use on the end of this. So I was so proud of myself for coming up with that, right? I'm like, but you didn't actually say that it was funny. And she looks at me and she goes, I love listening to your show. And I'm like, okay. I know when I'm being, yeah, exactly. So
this
anyway,
is really coming in handy today, by the way.
But I will tell you, I am looking forward to actually buying one just so I can see if their faces do turn blue. I mean, in all seriousness,
that would be amazing.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Oh, Nick Jonas is blue. It's time to drink the beer.
He's got just a little bit of scruffiness, not really. Not really. Just a little bit of they should just make his scruffiness turn blue. I think.
So, Ian, does
or the whole face turn blue? That says something else. But
yes, does this force us off the Nick Jonas bandwagon? What do you think?
We need to get in touch with him.
We sure do.
We need to talk to him.
We sure do.
I mean, everybody has a price. Maybe Coors is paying him a lot.
Well,
Coors has a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
I can see them it'll be interesting, by the way, to see if he gets the same backlash for having his face on a beer.
Yes, I bet he doesn't.
Yeah, I bet he doesn't.
I bet he doesn't. I bet people will celebrate that.
Yeah, they'll go, "Oh, Nick Jonas, look at that! He's got a major endorsement deal or whatever."
Huh?
Yeah. By the way, it could be that
that seems a little hypocritical, doesn't it?
It could be though that their love for Coors Light is being maybe played up a bit. I mean, I'll drink a Coors Light if there's nothing that I like better in the cooler. And if Coors Light came along and offered me a whole lot of money to put my face on their label, which they're obviously not going to do, but if they did, I'm not sure I'd turn that down.
I have to admit, I probably have a price.
Yeah. That's just a fact of life.
I can stand up on my principles, but I'm sure there's a level of hooker in me there.
Oh yeah. There's no question. All right. So on to better beer, at least what we hope will be better beer. And this is a lighter beer. This is a Kolsch from Adroit Theory, and we have had their beers on before. We have, I think, liked them very much, but I don't think we've ever done anything lighter like a Kolsch from Adroit Theory. So this will be really interesting to me to see what you think.
I have. While you've been talking, I have been doing quite the research.
Well, you're a research-oriented guy, and that's one of the things that I really like about you. So talk to me about your take on the Adroit Theory Strictly for My Grind Kolsch.
I'm for it. Did you like how short that answer was? That was amazing. No, go ahead and drink your beer. I'll talk for a minute.
Standing in contrast, yeah, right. While I'm waiting to, when you're reviewing your cigar and I'm waiting patiently, you can, you can elaborate. But when I need to take a drink of my
beer. When you're doing a podcast where everything is audio, it's different if you're watching it, but when you're doing a podcast where everything is audio, you can't hear a nod. So one of the funny things to do is if I give a short answer like that, Cruz has to start immediately talking. Well, and I waited until he got his beer right to his lips before I did. Yeah, it was beautiful timing,
and he goes, "I'm for it."
So the comedy of that was a little behind the scenes, but it was pretty amazing.
Well, that's the thing.
So while you were talking, I was doing my due diligence here, and I have to tell you, this is outstanding.
It's really delicious, isn't it?
Delicious.
What are you getting flavor-wise? Yeah.
The malt profile on this, while it's not super robust, is so present, and I absolutely love it. I love the lack of hop bitterness. I love the lack of everything IPA influence that this has. This is fantastic. This is one that I would grab for again and again.
It's October, and I find myself really wishing I'd discovered this beer like in May. To have this to drink across the summer.
This has, but that malt profile, this has almost that Marzen or Oktoberfest style flavor to it, and it has a little bit of that hop bite on the end, but just enough to crisp the beer up and make it taste.
Kind of make you're drinking a craft beer.
Yeah, I mean, this is the flavor profile on this, the mouthfeel on this is actually a little bit bigger than I would expect from a Kolsch. It's a little bit more than I would expect in general, because a lot of times people put out Kolsch.
Right. You think of Kolsch as being almost like a paper thin mouthfeel.
Yeah, this is much more like a robust a mouthfeel to it. And the flavor profile, this is right up my alley. Absolutely adore this beer. Good job, Adroit Theory.
Well,
this is so good.
Clearly, this is a brewery that knows what they're doing. I mean, we've established that in previous tastings, but I want to say I think. A brewer will probably correct me. Brian will probably correct me on this, but I think it's probably easier at this point for a brewer to make a great IPA or a really good stout than it is to make a Kolsch that really, that still is that style of beer, but that really has this kind of flavor. I think that would be hard.
Lighter styles are more difficult to make because the balance has to be there.
Right.
When you're making a lighter style beer, there's less margin for error, I think,
Will you take a look at the can on Mr. Torligig there and see what the ABV is?
5.1.
5.1. All right.
Oh, wait, they have some pairings on here.
Oh, what does it say?
This goes well with food, ramen ramen noodles, and miso pesto.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, it also says keep cold, drink fresh, serving 46 to 48 degrees, and it was canned 8/08/19, so we are keeping it pretty fresh.
Yep. And by the way, we are drinking this nice and cold.
Oh, look, check it out. It has a cheese pairing. Jean Grong. I don't know how to say it. Gronge. Grong. Listen, guys, I don't know.
I'm leaving you all alone.
Look, Cruz. I don't know how to say this, but Gron. Anyway, it also has a cigar pairing, Bolivar Tesoro.
Well, it's one of the things I've noticed on the other Adroit Theory beers that we had, and many of them have been in the bomber bottles, but they always have the food, cheese, and cigar pairing, which is awesome. I love that. That's just like taking an extra step, for the connoisseur.
From Purcellville?
Purcellville? Purcellville?
Virginia.
I think the Adroit Theory folks are listening to the show, so they're probably going, oh my God, these guys don't know.
They're slaughtering everything. They like our beer, so that's good, right?
They don't know how to pronounce our cheese or our town. But
listen, Cruz, I really don't know how to say this, but
I think it's
Purcellville.
I think it's Purcellville. Yeah.
I'm just crushing that joke right now.
It's in Virginia, and I used to live in D.C., so I should know how to pronounce Virginia cities.
This is one of the best Kolsch I think I've had.
I'm going to agree with you. In fact, I'll say this right now. It's my favorite Kolsch I've ever had.
It is so good. So good.
Fantastic.
I just love the flavor. This is absolutely right up my alley as far as beers go. If I'm going to drink something on the lighter side, this is the dream beer for me.
I like dream beers.
Yes.
Dream beers are good
Like
things.
I will dream about this, and I'll have to see if I can get an in up at Adroit Theory and have them send me more beers because you can't get it here.
That would be a wonderful thing. And yeah, come on, Adroit Theory, get some Texas distribution. You know?
I know the TABC makes it a little bit of a pain, but man, it would be worth it just for me.
Well, we do make an effort to try to source beers that are available places other than where we're based. And listen, we love talking about Texas beers, and there's some great ones. And the 903 that we're going to taste later is a Texas beer, and I'm looking forward to it. But it's also, I think, cool for us to be able to talk about beers from other areas that, because there's people who listen to the show all over the place. So,
yes.
So it's a pretty cool thing. So still to come on the program. Oh, and I want to say this before we go any further. Big thanks, speaking of Texas things, to Tony Gonzalez from Treaty Oak, who was on the show last week. Treaty Oak Distillery.
Awesome.
He was great. And, of course, our friend Mark Burrell at the Rainbow Lodge.
Always awesome.
We did the show there last week. And the plan going into the show was that Mark was going to talk about wines and cocktails for the holidays.
Yes.
And Tony was going to talk about Treaty Oak. And so we kind of got started on the Treaty Oak stuff, and then Mark had their bartender make us these cocktails that they have on the menu that are made with the Treaty Oak gin and the Treaty Oak whiskey, and we never got to the holiday beer. So I've asked Mark to come back on the show. The holiday wines. So I've asked Mark to come back on the show, between now and Thanksgiving, and we'll do a special holiday wine show.
He is so knowledgeable. He's so fun. And the combination of those two. The problem with the combination of those two on the show last week is they're so darn interesting that we just kept talking about what we had in front of us.
What we're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. they were so fun.
Yeah, it was.
And that place was so beautiful.
It was a great show. I enjoyed that immensely last week there at the Rainbow Lodge.
I cannot stop drinking this Kolsch.
It's really so good, isn't it? You've emptied that can, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you emptied some of it into my
I did empty some of it in yours because I didn't want to feel totally bad.
I'm going to enjoy it as we take a break. We'll be back in the next segment. We'll be tasting something I'm super curious about, the Dogfish Head Slightly Mighty Low-Cal IPA. And I do know how to pronounce Milton, by the way. Milton, Delaware. That's where Dogfish Head is based. So we'll talk about that. And Big Papi has come up with the greatest comeback ever for someone objecting to him smoking a cigar. So while you enjoy a little Nick Jonas bumper music, we'll be right back. Smoking and toasting.